Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Today we have a wonderful second lesson on how cryptocurrency works in practice and how you and what the safety rules are. And we continue. Special respect to everyone who is present. So let's chat with the chat a little bit. Hello, everyone. Where is the motivating, uplifting song about NV Global that we heard last year? In general, that's all. I can say the following. We will definitely write new ones because those songs were exclusively of a New Year's nature. Therefore, despite the fact that we ourselves like them very much, it so happened that they are tied to the new year. We are already running out of time here without Bez and Bezima. Therefore, I think that in the foreseeable future, we will be playing other tracks, no less uplifting and motivating. I hope I answered that question. So, hello everyone. Hello everyone. And let's move on to the material. The material we have today is, wait, no. That's the story. I'll distribute. So, dear ladies and gentlemen, you surely know that the mission of Global Company is to engage people in cryptocurrency and the world of blockchain in various ways, and to show how it all works. Why does this powerful trend of the 21st century not only have the right to exist at all, but also an obligation to exist in your life because it is an extremely necessary thing for everyone? Undoubtedly, I will say right away that all your main skills that you will acquire when working with cryptocurrency, you will gain them exclusively from interacting with it in practice. However, the course of lessons we conduct shows which aspects to highlight, that is, where to start understanding how it all works, and accordingly, so that you can roughly form a theoretical composition in your head. So look, we have a very important point on how not to lose money, how not to fall victim to fraudsters, how to interact more carefully with cryptocurrency, because cryptocurrency has powerful advantages such as anonymity, such as ATA, the openness, you have all transactions, and so on. And at the level of ideas and implementation, it's all great, but there are always people who really want to tell you something so that you can clearly see how your money disappeared, where it went, but who stole it, you can't quite see. And one of, let's call it, the clickbait beginnings of today's training, I will say that just recently, this week, at one of the largest exchanges, Bybit, there was a theft from wallets, 1.46. In total, $1.5 billion was stolen. Well, more precisely, cryptocurrency is worth $1.5 billion. That's the kind of news we have. And how to ensure that this doesn't happen to you, how to be protected from all this. Accordingly, we will talk about this today. So, I remind you that in the last session, we discussed in detail what blockchain is, what cryptocurrency is, how accordingly, what basic concepts are associated with this. Today, we will talk a little about how to use it, how to protect yourself, how to protect your money. So could you please tell me who would like to understand better, but is not sure if they will succeed? I know there is a whole group of people, and I actually belonged to such a group for a long time. This group of people believes that it is too complicated. For me, I won't delve into it. I will trust the professionals who, accordingly, let them handle everything. Who else has similar thoughts? Please put plus signs or any other markers. It's difficult. Let them. I would rather trust someone else. And look, as you can clearly and easily observe, this position has undoubtedly advantages, meaning you, let's say you trust professionals and so on. But, you know, I would like to give you an example. If you don't understand anything about how a car works, then when you go to a car service, then you might end up paying for things that didn't need fixing. You understand, right? That is, why do most car enthusiasts still try to understand, figure out how things are arranged, what is where? And now YouTube and many other resources help a lot with this, when you can watch and see some problems. Because I'll give my own example. That is, when I didn't delve into it at all, my maintenance was very expensive. When I started to delve into it, when I began to find out information, when I started to understand, I began to pay much less. And in many cases, some things were even covered under warranty and so on. That is, we're not saying that you need to become a professional trader, but we are saying that if you have at least a basic level, like a beginner's course in cryptocurrency, then it's already, but much harder to deceive you. It's much more difficult, you see, to deceive you. So that's why we're figuring this out. So don't worry, we'll gradually get into it. And so on. Speaking for myself, it was very difficult for me to master cryptocurrency. I encountered it in 2015. It was something completely incomprehensible at first. Then it became clear on the level of the idea. To this day, many technical nuances are unclear to me. And that's really, well, that's normal, but I freely understand the basic things and can even explain them. Let's move on to that right now. Because if we invite a top-notch specialist, you most likely won't understand him. Let me explain as someone who has gone through all the stages from denial to acceptance, so to speak. Let's analyze the following so that you understand its practical relevance. How can you use cryptocurrency? By the way, you can also write in the chat about things that are not mentioned here. International transfers. International transfers are very relevant. And not only about for sanctioned countries, but in general for many other countries. International transfers are fast, with minimal fees, and so on. I have acquaintances who, for example, bought an apartment in Turkey just using cryptocurrency. That is, they transferred money to the realtor, more precisely USDT, and received an apartment. And it was much more convenient than buying rubles, buying rubles, buying rubles, buying rubles, 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 buying rubles, 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 buying rubles, converting to rubles, buying dollars, dollars, transferring. So it was expensive. Moreover, converting dollars was more costly, either through Golden Crown or other methods. Well, there are quite a few ways, but not all of them are convenient and not all are instant. And in general, it's quite a lengthy process. An international transfer is a good option practically for, by the way, please write a plus sign if you haven't, because we didn't mention that currently our messages are disabled. Please write. Great, thank you very much, Alexander. Everything in the chat is working. Moving on to the next topic of online shopping, you know, more and more stores are accepting Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other coins, for example. You can get a VPN subscription, buy some gadgets, and so on. I can't say it's widespread, but you've probably heard about instances where you can buy a Tesla, for example, with Bitcoin, or a Lamborghini with Bitcoin. There are many other such instances. And this has been happening for several years now. So you can also buy various things for yourself. Here. Yes, thank you, dear moderator. Let's move on. There is a very good section on investments and saving storage. Because absolutely everyone, when you give them a simple calculation like what if in 2009, or say in 2011, for example, yes, let's take 2011, when Bitcoin was worth pennies, you had bought $100 worth of Bitcoin. Now you could buy yourself an island, for example, right? Because now Bitcoin is around $100,000. It fluctuates back and forth, but at least the psychological threshold, around $100,000, it has already reached, and I think it stands quite confidently. It started from a few cents, meaning 10,000 Bitcoins. The first purchase of 10,000 Bitcoins was for 2 pizzas. Someone to a person sold 2 pizzas for 10,000 Bitcoins. That's the story. And someone bought 2 pizzas, the most expensive 2 pizzas in the history of mankind. That's it. Moving on. Since there is such a concept as investments and saving storage, it's a really cool story. If we talk about basic cryptocurrencies, they are limited in quantity. For example, Bitcoin, there can only be 21 million. Yes, Ethereum, there are also limitations. And many of the main, like the top 10 cryptocurrencies that exist, they are limited in one way or another. And this is very important. Well, actually, there are limitations in every cryptocurrency. And thus they are somewhat more protected from things like inflation. That is devaluation. Look, once there were few Bitcoins, but the number of people using them was also very small. And you could mine them even on a calculator. We remember, yes, from the previous lesson that mining is essentially the processing of transactions. If we put it very simply. And now when millions of people around the globe are using Bitcoin, its value increases, and the amount of Bitcoin grows much less than the number of people who want to use it. As a result, the value of Bitcoin increases. It grows, grows, grows. Therefore, it's a good moment for investment. If we talk about currencies, for example, individual coins or tokens that can give X350, what is it? That is 350 times, for example, in a month, in a year, for instance, then undoubtedly, from an investment perspective, it's more like gambling than investing. Because there is currently a very popular trend like meme coins, various ones. It's like, how is it? Joke coins, in other words. Yes, joke coins. They can yield huge profits, but they can also lead to ruin accordingly. That is, when Mr. Trump was running for office, just for fun, he released a Trump meme coin and a Melania meme coin, that is, his wife. They made very good money, but I lost $150, for example, because I thought, a great reason to buy 2 Trumps for $150, and now it's worth just a few cents, for example. So let's separate investments. These are some fundamental cryptocurrencies, and these are cryptocurrencies, for example, of exchanges. Like Bendy, for example, there is this token in which it grows over time there. 3 XR, Tron, yes, meaning there, accordingly, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and so on. Those that are fundamental and tied, saving storage, only there. If you enter without wanting to think about anything, you can just set aside part of your money, for example, into some stable cryptocurrency that is not a stable coin, but rather fundamental, and you will save your money for the future. This is an excellent strategy. And there is accordingly moving on, trading on the exchange. Trading on the exchange. If we talk about trading on the exchange, I will immediately say that the number of people who call themselves traders is much greater than those who can actually be called traders. This is a very important point. Most of the traders you find online make their main income from talking about being traders, not from trading itself. This is important to understand, because today in this lesson we will not be discussing how leverage works. That is, there is such a concept as leverage. For example, I can, having $10, for example, $10, buy some cryptocurrency with high leverage as if it were $100. But in case I incorrectly determine which direction this story will go, then I lose much more than I have, and I get completely liquidated. For example, there I am, my deposit. That is, accordingly, this is a high-risk story, and those people who really know how to work with leverage, like, for example, our trading department, like its head, whom many of you have surely seen in person, Oleg, yes. That is, this is a person who must live by mathematics. This is an important point, a very important point. And such people are very unique, just like people who love to sing. Millions, but I don't know, like Madonna or some Kanye West, I don't know. Alla Pugacheva, well, name them yourself accordingly. There are only a few. Therefore, trading is dangerous. I would recommend you definitely do the following. Try trading on your own with a very small, amusing amount. That is, to directly say, I'm ready to lose $10 there and try trading, so that you at least have a rough idea of how it's done. We will talk more about this in the future. Well, basically, so that you at least understand where to click, for example. But nevertheless, give it a try. And after that, you might say, oh no, better let it be. Oleg's team is handling this. Well, seriously, I personally have experience. I have at least 3 acquaintances who, with wide eyes, started earning in a growing market. There you go. Some lasted a week, some in trading, some lasted a week, some lasted a month. Someone built a strategy to not lose precisely and lasted 2 months. But in the grand scheme of things, everyone got burned. Everyone got burned. That is, money was lost. Therefore, that's the story. And now let's friends. So let's move on. Why cryptocurrency is popular in countries with unstable economies. Here's a question for you, unexpectedly to the audience, because for us, in our schools, it's very important to have engaged minds, meaning that you understand the logic of the process. The company's concept is to develop a strong team that will truly understand cryptocurrency at a level where it can be explained. And accordingly, understand the logic of the process. Because if you understand the logic, then everything else will be more or less clear to you. So, friends, why is cryptocurrency very popular in countries with unstable economies? Because it is not tied to any material resource. Andre here probably needs to elaborate, because your answer is also more. The question is not quite expanded, and please write to your ESO. Alexander Baumgartner money loses value, like with us, for example, mountains not to. So yes, this question is a bit more like the truth. Look, here you need to understand one thing. We are now carefully touching on a dangerous topic. And this dangerous topic is called the stability of regional currencies. One way or another, it is commonly believed that there is a country which has, how do we call a national debt such that it is about to collapse, you know? So please write about which country we are talking about. Here, Galina. We are definitely friends here. America, visiting America every year. You know what the story is. The first time this started to be actively discussed was back during Brezhnev's time. I think it was, or under Khrushchev, 1956. Yes, 1956. That's when it was supposed to collapse, the US economy. Then it was supposed to collapse every year. And accordingly, it will surely collapse in the future as well. And undoubtedly, the US has an issue like inflation. That is, the dollar, for example, at the beginning of the last century and at the end of the last century had different purchasing power. But for countries with unstable economies, the situation is completely different. That is, if the dollar is slowly descending the stairs of a multi-story building, like this, floor by floor, without rushing, then many countries with unstable economies, their currency can just sort of, well, it can just plummet, past, also downwards. Therefore, considering that in cryptocurrency, one way or another, all calculations are done in dollars, and even if we take USDT, that is, even if you just keep money in USDT, you are most likely already winning. Expressed, you are most likely already winning over any somewhat long period. Because if we take a mountain there, no, for example, in this example, Paraguay is also a currency, which, to buy not a pie there, not a pie, how is it called? They would wrap a flatbread there, a sadilla, for example, you need a bag of these guaranis. That is, the exchange rate is like that. The Turkish lira as well. That is, 3 years ago it was 15 lira per dollar. Now it's 36.5 lira per dollar. For example, imagine that, right? There you go. The ruble also has an unclear story. That is, many currencies one way or another. One way or another, they. So if you have earned something, it's better to save it in dollars. This is a long-standing traditions that even our parents told us about and so on. And now look, what else can be on top? This is the first step towards profitability and interest. When talking to someone, why am I telling you this? Such political enlightenment benefits when talking to someone, at least tell them you can put it in dollars. In dollars. Here's the first step, cryptocurrency USDT. A stable coin pegged to the dollar. Yes, well, a coin. Everything is great. Next, with USDT, a person can buy anything. I really like the story that the guys from Chelyabinsk are doing, for example. That is how they invite. They say you come here. Come to the company. Invest money in trading. You will earn a profit from this. After a year, you will get your money back. And you will receive profit every month. And with this money that comes to you every month, you can invest some part in buying other coins. And by doing this, you take a risk. As if you are already earning with extra money, yes, that is, you are risking your profit. This is not the same as with the basic money. And in addition, you can take an extra step upwards, a step upwards by increasing, and in the process, you learn about cryptocurrency, gaining experience. This is a very interesting concept, by the way. You can also try it, for example, by talking to someone about it. It's quite a cool thing. So therefore, well, and accordingly, the rest of you are also undoubtedly right. That is, transaction fees, yes. Meaning political instability and so on. And at the same time, it turns out that cryptocurrency is protected from inflation. It can lose value, undoubtedly, at some stage, but in the long run, it is, at least if we are talking about fundamentals, it is protected from inflation. Let's move on. Therefore, feel free to invite people to the company, because here they will at least preserve their money. This is important. So, moving on. The main types of cryptocurrency wallets. Now, let's delve into this together. I am going to use some complex words now. Perhaps you've heard them somewhere. Perhaps not. Let's break it down. Centralized wallets or custodial wallets. Custodial wallet. These are synonyms. These are synonyms, so in general, don't be alarmed. What is their advantage? For example, on exchanges, right on exchanges, these are custodial wallets in personal accounts and so on. It's easy for beginners to use, meaning you basically just need an email. So it's convenient for trading quick transactions. It's convenient. There are lower fees accordingly, because if we're talking about exchange fees from account to account, there are fewer fees. because the exchange essentially doesn't transfer your money anywhere. It's just like in a bank. It simply redistributes the numbers that appear in the account of one person to another. That's one aspect. But the downsides, the fact that we don't control our money, and the exchange can be hacked or shut down, and the funds can be lost. And just recently, it turns out he was released from a US prison. Alexander Vinnik, you might have heard of him. He's the founder of an exchange. Let me tell you. Slipped my mind. Friends, please write which exchange we're talking about. The exchange that shut down. Shut down. BTC? Yes. Yes, BTC. Which shut down? In reality, most exchanges, of course, do not shut down. So don't think that wherever there's the word exchange, there will be 100% some kind of scam. No. Mr. Vinnik has just been released. Appropriated some billions of dollars, got out of prison, there through an exchange. Well, we're not getting into those details right now. Nevertheless, people lost money. Therefore, in an exchange is a good way to operate with money. That is, to buy something, sell something, and so on. But not the best way to store it. That's the point. Therefore, it's better if we store it. Yes. Well, a question to the audience. Accordingly, why do you think it's unsafe to keep all your money on an exchange? Because it can be stolen. All right. Decentralized wallets or non-custodial wallets. What are the key points here? Your money is stored essentially directly on the blockchain. And examples of such wallets, please write down what are some examples of wallets. There are specifically decentralized ones that you know. Let's write them down. Trust in the morning barrel. Yes, exactly. Venus. Trust. Excellent. What other ones? Bridge? No. NV Wallet. Thank you, Albina. Albina, thank you so much. Yes. And Thorin Wallet. So there are also MetaMask, for example. There are ledgers. SafePal, Natalia. Thank you. By the way, I used SafePal myself for a long time. It's a very cool thing. Then the fees on it became high. Nevertheless, yes, that is undoubtedly they exist, they are there, and it's quite a complex technology. That is, your money is stored directly on the blockchain. And here, there's a different story. If suddenly, for some reason, you forgot, for example, your password on the exchange, then purely hypothetically, you could restore access to your funds on the exchange. Through tech support, through providing documentation, through a long and tedious process, but at least it's possible. It will greatly depend on how robust your multi-factor system was. And there are different identity verification systems. That's it. But with decentralized wallets, it's exactly the opposite. Absolutely. No one can access them at all. Moreover, I want to give you an example. Imagine you have, for instance, a trust wallet. And suddenly it disappears. Completely. The app is gone. And you have no access. For example, you can log into any other decentralized wallet, enter the same seed phrase, the so-called 12 words that you have. We discussed them in the last session. Training, and accordingly, gain access to your money. That is, you will always be able to access your money if you do not lose the seed phrase. The seed phrase is reminiscent of 12 words that should be written down by hand, and placed in several different locations. This is very important. So, is that clear? So, imagine this scenario. What can a non-custodial wallet or decentralized wallet be compared to? It can be compared to a buried chest of money. You have a buried chest of money, and if you don't tell anyone, then no one will be able to take it. Do you understand? It's a very reliable story, but no one can dig up the entire planet to write. But it requires more responsibility and attentiveness. Next, please write down the question. Why are decentralized wallets considered more secure, in your opinion? Essentially because no one but you can access it. Exactly right. Exactly. Great. Excellent. So Andre is formulating the question. All right, let's move on for now. Conclusion. For storing large amounts and long-term investments, it's better to use decentralized wallets. For short-term trading or small transactions, you can use centralized exchanges, but keep only small amounts there that you need for quick intervention. Next. That's all. All right. Let's go over a few points that you might encounter. So, firstly, phishing and scammers. What is phishing? Phishing is the ability to access your computer, your device, gadget, and so on, for example. Yes, Andre, you are correct. You understood correctly. Only with the seed phrase of the trust, there's a very small point here. If your money was in the trust and you had the seed phrase in the trust, then accordingly, if you enter this seed phrase into BNV wallet, you will be able to experiment. Right? I was amazed myself. It's a very cool story. It's a really, really great story. You can be absolutely safe. So someone might say to me, what if your wallet app is removed? You can take your money from any other one. What's the problem? So there's no need for it to be removed because it's essentially our technology, our product, and we are promoting it. So moving on. Phishing. What is phishing? It's a very interesting story. Never click on suspicious links. And it's really important to understand that scammers are often found in chats dedicated to crypto topics, where there are many newcomers, where there are many people who don't understand. And for example, those who know a little, they are very careful in how they react to what someone writes. Oh, I lost access in the chat, for example. I lost access to my wallet. Try to see if you can log in, and there, for example, they write some seed phrase or some other things. You understand? Or there, they say, come over, vote there, and so on. Next, you need to clearly understand that you must track and carefully check the links you click on. Scammers also often create fake websites of exchanges and wallets. This is possible. This is possible. For a long time, it's impossible to deceive an experienced user, but an inexperienced one who simply won't delve into it can be tricked. There are even special programs when you, for example, send money, but the program can change it at the very last moment. The wallet address you are sending to can be altered. If you, for example, pasted the wallet you needed, well, and then something completely different could be set up. I'll give an example. Yes, for instance, Alexander says, my friend lost 20,000 like this. Euros probably, or dollars. Well, but it's a good amount. You often know what kind of person comes, especially with this. By the way, this kind of story, is very popular on Android wallets, on Android and phones. You need to deal with this. For example, when you copy something, it goes into the clipboard, the memory buffer, and when you paste, it might not be exactly what you copied. So always just check. It's not difficult. It's not difficult. Check where you are sending accordingly wallets and so on. Next, storing passwords and seed phrases. Please do not use passwords and seed phrases in phone notes, screenshots, and so on, because phones can be hacked much more easily than you think. On one hand, on the other hand, on the computer as well, through some small virus, something can get in, and there are programs that you went to a site to watch a movie, for example, and something downloaded and installed itself, and someone has access to your computer, they look, and you don't have your wallet there. Write it down on paper the old-fashioned way. So, moving on. My third point, exchange and account security. If you have cryptocurrency on an exchange, make sure to enable two-factor authentication. Make sure to enable two-factor authentication. Because it's always better to use a decentralized wallet. But 2FA can actually look different. But when you have a password, do you also receive, for example, a password via email? You know, right, when you log into the exchange, you receive a confirmation with a one-time password. So, for example, you might get a call or an SMS to your phone, or even on Telegram, or some other notifications occur. So you clearly know that someone is logging into the exchange and it's you. This is a very important point. Next, and accordingly, with trading on the stock exchange. Trading on the stock exchange. I recommend each of you to try it. I sincerely recommend it. But right away, decide what amount of money you are ready to spend, like $30, $50. Well, those who are wealthy can spend more, but essentially, there's no particular point because you can observe the logic of the process with small amounts and so on. Personally, I have come to a certain conclusion that to trade, you need to have a certain mindset. That is, if you are a mathematician, enjoy dealing with paperwork, accounting, spreadsheet programs like Excel or other such tasks and other related activities. Maybe you'll like it. For many people of a different mindset, trading doesn't appeal to them. They start to play with it, and you can't play like that. Albina is absolutely right in saying that trading requires patience and nerves of steel. More precisely, it's not even about patience. You need to be someone who is not susceptible to it. There, family, well, a very analytical thinking person, like that. Moving on. Question. Why shouldn't you share your seed phrase even with friends? Just explain. Why do you think you shouldn't share your seed phrase, even with friends? Of course, friends, Natalia, how can they? A person with a sense of experience. Yes, you hear you all. You are all right. You are all right. In fact, indeed, anyone can betray when it comes to money. Yes, unfortunately. Let's do it this way. A friend will definitely have another friend. And yes, that is well. Let's go step by step. So, firstly, when you give someone a phrase and what happens to your money, most likely, your friendship might get spoiled, even if you suddenly have, for example, you gave him a phrase, your money from the wallet, possibly. There. On the exchange, something else happened. It's unclear. He's not involved at all. But your relationship with him will definitely deteriorate. I have a real example of this. I had a friend who was a trader who was involved in certain activities, trading for me. Then at one fine moment, well, it so happened that the money, as it were, got completely blocked. And even though I trust him, our relationship did not become stronger. Because of this, I'll say it straight. So, for example, the second point. So yes, a friend might not be as responsible as you. Although how responsible can you be if you're giving out a set phrase to someone? He might be even less responsible and just accidentally, I don't know, lose his phone, for example. Yes. He might accidentally send it to someone and then write, oh, not to you, wrong chat, and so on. He might have wanted to send a bouquet to a beautiful girl he bought it for, but instead sent her a phrase. There are many such moments. So let's keep it clean, not where we clean up, but where we don't make a mess. So we don't share with anyone. Don't share with anyone. It's your personal, all of this is just yours, yours, yours. Let's move on. Let's quickly go through the mistakes. Loss of the seed phrase. Bingo bongo, my congratulations, that is. But for this, it's better to keep money in several wallets, in several decentralized wallets for that purpose. So that even in the case of losing the seed phrase from one, you at least preserve the rest to be continued, well, in general. Storing in a safe place is an interesting concept when, for example, you write down a seed phrase. For instance, if you have a large sum of money, for example, you write down the seed phrase. You deposit, for example, in a bank safe deposit box. 3 copies, 1 copy you take somewhere like in the forest on a plot, I don't know. At the dacha, for example, they buried one of you somewhere in the safe of one bank cell. For example, to a large extent, your money is protected. Further incorrect addresses. This is really, yes, this is really a story. The most interesting thing is that even a space can play a cruel joke. Because when you copied the address, for example, pasted it, there are many, many numbers and letters. You often don't pay attention to how it happens. You just copied it, just pasted it, and maybe you took it with a space, then one letter didn't fit. In general, different stories of incorrect addresses. The money goes not where you wanted, and that's sad. That's sad. Even in our company, there was a situation when one of the leaders, he had the wallet to which he temporarily lost access or completely lost access at that time. And he, for example, was withdrawing directly from the company. He was withdrawing to another wallet, but they always went to that one. That was exactly the story. Even though he had in the so-called cookies, the password saved, and it automatically inserted the old one. So always check. Please check every letter and number. It's not difficult, but it really helps you not to get upset later. In general, how do I often do it for myself? When I want to transfer money, some amount, more than $1,000 and so on, I first send $50. I sent $50. If they confirmed on the other side that everything is fine, the money has arrived, then I send the rest. That's it. Yes, Alexander, that's right, at least the first 5 and the last 5. Leave comments if you like this video. Well, letters, numbers there. So, moving on. Storing funds on the exchange. This is a mistake. It's a mistake not to store funds on the exchange. That's why our company not only has an exchange, which ideally is the most important thing for someone involved in crypto, but also a wallet. A wallet, because you shouldn't keep money on the exchange, leave only what you need for conversion or trading and so on. There's too high a risk in investments. Many people bet everything on the line. If there wasn't an event happening in Chelyabinsk right now, Chelyabinsk would show you there are some real cases there. That is losing 9 million that a person invested in several cryptocurrencies, which simply depreciated, for example, 9 million rubles then, for instance. There are several other reasons. I think each of us knows people who lost money in crypto when they, for example, buy some token, some coin. Well, I'm at your service. I bought myself 2 coins for $150. Trump, please write how much it costs. Now, I bought for 75. There's even such a... Now it's worth 15, so I ended up with 5 times less, meaning 150 turned into $30 left, for example. There's even such a fragile saying, it's very bad. I won't tell it entirely. But there's a phrase like bought at the high being the highest. Yes, meaning at the highest price. Rode on the also at the highs, just phrased a little differently. Yes, so that's the story. We all have to go through this one way or another. Just to understand how it works, there's no need to be afraid of it. It's normal. In other words, you can't do it without mistakes. Just don't risk large amounts. Always invest only what you are willing to lose. This is very important. The cryptocurrency market is very volatile. For example, let me tell you, in 2018, the year 2018, in 2018, at its peak, cryptocurrency was worth $18,000. After that, for several years, it was worth 3 to 5. And all the people who bought at 18 regretted it 10 times over. They lost money because over several years, everyone sold, but then Bitcoin became worth $60,000 and now 100. Well, around that, so with a high degree of probability, if we are working with basic cryptocurrencies, we won't lose money, but we need to hold on and not sell them too early. Next. Well, let's reinforce the material. Write in the chat, what can cryptocurrency be used for? Come on, friends. We are already nearing the end. Let's summarize. Investments and storage. Yes. Fast international transfers, saving money. Exactly right. I pay everywhere with crypto and as an investment. Excellent. International transfers. Excellent. Next block. What is the difference between centralized and decentralized? Oh, trading on the exchange, Natalia. Thank you. Let's move to the next question. What is the difference between a centralized and decentralized wallet? In a few words. In a few words. Full control of the funds is only by you. Control of the money is not with me on the exchange. Full control. The money is with me. Excellent. Mine. And not mine. Well, or it can be said differently, right? That is like convenient. And convenient or safe, for example, like disconvenient or safe. Okay, great. Excellent. Well, we won't repeat, so I apologize. Another question. Why is it important to store? Let's take this other question. Why is it important to store large amounts in a personal wallet and not on the exchange? So they are not stolen, yes. And also probably, so 100. And also probably we better on several wallets if we are talking about large amounts. So excellent. What are the main security rules you remember? Don't give your friend the code. From the seed phrase only on paper. Excellent. Excellent. Store on paper. Check the transfer address. Don't click on links. Checking address excellent. Super. Super. So, well, look, today we discussed how to use cryptocurrency, how to protect it, what points. Now you are ready to take the first steps in all this. Since you are at least clients of NV Global, you are already earning from cryptocurrency every day. But if you want to understand more and earn more, and also build teams, you will be asked questions about everything. And it will be important for you to convey some basic points. Because let's be honest, if your friend can learn at least the basic skills from you, what to do with crypto, they will feel much more at ease. When they join your team, they will understand that you know at least more than they do. That's why those who now feel more confident, ready to try using cryptocurrency and, accordingly, start gradually promoting it. Please type plus signs. Please, plus signs. By the way, many network marketers actually don't delve deeply into cryptocurrency and just promote it as money, a day company like money, but then the company is perceived by many as a pyramid because it is promoted like a pyramid. This is a very important point. To be continued. Therefore, when people will feel how to secure the exchange from hacks, not at all. But that's not your task. It's the exchange's task. The exchange's task. Well, for example, like when you park your car in a guarded parking lot. It can be stolen from there, it can, but that's not your task. You pay money for them to solve it. There you go. In general, after the second lesson, you already understood the difference between centralized and decentralized wallets. You learned how to use them correctly and protect your money from fraudsters. I'll say right away, if you encounter the phrase custodial, or non-custodial, it's the same as centralized and decentralized. So here's a new feature for you. All right. Thank you very much, friends. It was very pleasant to interact with you. If there are any questions, now is the time to ask them. And remember that we need to give a lot of support in the chat. Support to the guys who are currently hosting from Chelyabinsk, from Novosibirsk, from Tomsk, from Cholny, hosting events. By the way, today, give special congratulations. Artem Yurtsin for wearing a jacket for the first time in probably 10 years. It looks great. And also, write in the chat that the training was useful. The recording will be posted in about, well, within an hour to an hour and a half. It will already be in the training chat. So, Albina, please write in private. So, there is no training recording. Thank you all the best. Oh, the moderator says that the recording might be there a bit later, but today in the evening, it will definitely be there. Thank you very much. All the best.